Yep, you read that right. This is Dentsply Sirona's latest intraoral scanner, Primescan 2. Let's get into it. Hey guys, Dr. Ahmad Al-Hassiny here from the Institute of Digital Dentistry. And here we have Primescan 2. Super exciting news from Dentsply Sirona as they have just released their latest intraoral scanner. Now, I've been fortunate enough to be one of the few in the world to be able to get early access to the Primescan 2 and have been testing it in my clinic for over a month now. And it is basically everything that you like about the Primescan, but now with the DS Core Cloud in the mix. I also just came back from Germany where I visited Dentsply Sirona HQ and was involved in their launch event. A big thank you for the entire DS team for their kind invitation. I've been waiting for some time to be able to share this video with you, and I'm super excited the time has come. So let's unbox this and go over everything you need to know about the Primescan 2. So for starters, what can we see? Well, obviously this is a much smaller box than we're used to. And if you think about it, the DS scanners usually came in much larger containers because they've always been a scanner and cart product. Sometimes even with a mill built in, if you go back far enough in this company's rich history in CAD/CAM. We are talking about the CEREC 1, CEREC 2, CEREC 3 RedCam, BlueCam, OmniCam, and Primescan. These were all much larger units, and the only deviation to this was the Primescan Connect, the laptop version of the Primescan. So going back all the way from 1985 to now in 2024, almost 40 years, we now have the Primescan 2, the first ever cloud-based scanner. Yes, you heard that right, but more on that later. So apart from a smaller box, the packing looks stylish and it has this Primescan 2 text. Already we can see something different in that the scanner has this green power symbol, which should give you an idea of what to expect. So let's remove this packing here and see what we get. Another Primescan 2 box, so a little sleeve there. And if we open this up now, the first thing we actually greeted with here is a setup guide. How to set up your Primescan 2. Now this is kind of interesting because it says, step 1, download the DS Core Link app. So this is all kind of getting this connected to the cloud and should give you an idea of where we're going with this. Next it says insert the battery. So this is a wireless device and Dentsply Sirona's first wireless scanner. And follow the instructions on the DS Core Link app and then replace the protective sleeve with the scan sleeve and start scanning. So that is how to set up your Primescan 2. Let's get into the Primescan 2. And here it is in all its glory. And I have to say it's a pretty stylish device, obviously sharing a lot of the same features and elements of the Primescan 1. I do wonder if that's why they called it Primescan 2 rather than give it a whole brand new name. So it certainly does look like a Primescan, but a couple of really interesting things is once again, no wire. So this is a wireless scanner. A couple of other things that we see here, something that's, comes out to me straight away is that there doesn't seem to be any scanner buttons, although we do have a power button down here. If we press and hold this, does nothing. We need to put a battery in, obviously. And so once I get a battery in, I'll show you that it lights up green and then the scanner has to try connect to DS Core. So that's the scanner. Overall, yeah, like I say, it just feels premium, looks premium. It's on the heavier side, I have to say, for a wireless scanner, and that's because it is building on the Primescan 1, which was already quite a beefy scanner. And we have this protective cover sleeve. Quite simple, slots in and out just like that. Next we have the scanner cradle. So this is the scanner cradle that comes with the Primescan 2. And it fits in just like that. This is how your scanner is going to sit on the desk. And it's quite an interesting little scanner cradle, or should I say big scanner cradle, in that the design kind of reminds me of the carts in a way. If you imagine, this is kind of how the Primescan 1 used to sit on your original Primescan with the cart and the monitor and everything. So it's almost like they've taken some of that design element of that holder and made it into a desktop cradle. Now, one thing I do notice is that there's no charging elements in this desktop cradle. So as we know about wireless scanners, they kind of come in two varieties. One variety is, charging on the cradle itself. We see some scanner products doing this. And the other variety is having a separate charging box for the batteries. And that is no doubt what we'll find with the Primescan 2. The other thing on this top tier of the box is the batteries. So within the box, you get 3 batteries with the Primescan 2. And I am told that the Primescan 2 batteries last about 5 treatment kind of scans from start to finish. So in a way, you can think about it as 5 patients. I haven't really tested it yet to really time the battery life compared to other products. It's interesting that they're using that terminology, 5 patient scans, instead of, hours per battery. But I have to say, the batteries are also, it's a really good build quality. The batteries just also look quite flash, and they just slot in just like that at the back of the Primescan 2. You can see this little indicator light up. This tells you how much battery power this battery has. And if you click the button here, you will see this power indicator go from blue as the Primescan 2 is booting up to green. And then underneath here is the DS Core connection. And so once this boots up, the scanner will then try connect to the DS Core cloud. And more on that later, because things get really interesting. The other thing I mentioned before is there's no scanner buttons, which is a really unique design. I mean, most scanners opt for scanner buttons. In the Primescan 2, it's almost like it's not quite a haptic control. It's more like a I think it's either a gyro or something in here, but how you get the scanner going is you tap the side of the scanner. So if you tap once, it starts and stops scanning, and if you tap twice, it goes through the scanning windows. Kind of cool. I don't know if I would have preferred a button, but I do have to say, within the DS Core cloud and software, Dentsply Sirona has done a really good job, just making sure that the scanner is always ready when you pick it up. I don't know how they've pulled this off, but I've really found that I've never had to start and stop scanning that often. As soon as I pick it up and get it ready inside the mouth, it starts automatically. So that was quite cool. If we put this down, that is the first tier, all done. Let's see what else is here. We have a calibration unit. Now this calibration unit is pretty stock standard. It looks like the Primescan 1 calibration unit. It is slightly different, so you can't interchange them, because I forgot to mention, those of you with sharp eyes will notice that this tip looks a bit different to the Primescan 1. We'll talk about that as well later. But this is the calibration unit. One interesting thing, look, I've owned a Primescan and a CEREC. We actually owned 5 whole CEREC systems across our practices. And we've owned them for over, I would say, 6 years now. Now, the interesting thing about the Primescan, it was really low maintenance. The original Primescan and even OmniCam, we hardly ever had to calibrate it. With the Primescan 2, because everything now is on the cloud, all the software is on the cloud, there's a lot more updates now, firmware updates. And I guess this is almost like the beta or alpha version I'm playing with, so there's a lot of updates I'm seeing. But every time there's a firmware update, you do have to calibrate the Primescan 2. Very simple calibration, just like every other scanner we're used to. You put the head in there and you twist this and you go through an on-screen calibration process. What else is here? Here's the little cap. Whoops, it's stuck in the box. That's how it sits. The other things is the charging station. So this is the Primescan 2 Dentsply Sirona battery charging station. Pretty stock standard. We're kind of used to this in the market now. The batteries fit in here, and it's nice that the company does allow you to charge 3 batteries. Again, nothing too spectacular. I do have to say it is a nice design. It feels like a beefy little, charging station here. And although one would argue maybe the battery life is on the, lower end compared to some scanners who are promising 20 hours, 30 hours of battery, you always have batteries ready. I never really found it to be too big of a deal. You can see the Primescan 2 is on now. If you needed to change batteries, pulling it off turns off the scanner. Get a new one, put it in there, start the scanner, and I would say within a minute it's connected. So it does a really good job. It never felt like it was annoying to have to switch batteries, even mid-procedure sometimes if I didn't carefully check the battery life and tried to squeeze in a last scan. So that is a Primescan 2. What else is in here? Plugs. Obviously the battery charger needs power, and so this is kind of stock standard plugs. This is the New Zealand adapter, New Zealand Australian adapter. This goes at the back of your battery charger over here, and this is plugged in to charge your batteries. We also have a wall mount here. Now I thought this wall mount may have been for the cradle, but it's not. This wall mount is actually for your battery charger. So the battery charger can be wall mounted. I think that's quite a neat feature. You can put this on the side of your clinic wall and it's always there. What else do we have here? Plugs, various type of international plugs. This is all very stock standard. We have cleaning swabs, and these have been a feature in almost every CEREC that I remember having these cleaning swabs in here. Lastly, and I find this very interesting, is the scanner tip. So with the Primescan 2, at least the version that I got, you get a single-use scanner tip, and this is it. Now why I find this interesting is, again, ever since I remember, Omnicam had a metal scanning tip. It was not one that you could autoclave. And Primescan, although it did have the single-use scanner tips, the company, I felt, never really pushed it. It was always shipped with the metal scanning tip. Well, with the Primescan 2, you are now getting the single-use scanning tips. And this is what they look like. Pretty sleek design, I have to say, compared to some other scanning tips, from lower cost scanners. Definitely you feel the difference. This is quite sturdy plastic, but a scanner tip is a scanner tip, right? Plastic, there's a window in there, and it slots in just like that. You even have some design elements on the scanner tip, which is kind of unique. This is how the Primescan 2 looks with its scanning tip. And once again, these are single use, so quite a deviation, I feel, that the company's doing, including these in the box. I find it's quite interesting. There definitely seems to be some sort of interest in single-use scanning tips in the market, because we saw Trios 5 also release single-use scanning tips. And that is basically everything that you get with the Primescan 2. That's everything. And I feel like there's a lot more to talk about regarding this scanner than what you see, because as mentioned, this is a cloud scanner, and frankly, after using it, I'm a little mind blown. And what I mean by cloud scanner is that once you turn it on, the green logo goes on, the DS Core logo goes green when it's ready, and then this thing is connected to DS Core. And if you don't know what DS Core is, I've written a ton of articles on the IDD website. You can check those out, just explaining what it is. But it's essentially Dentsply Sirona's cloud platform, and they've been building this for some time. And in hindsight, the scanner brings everything in full circle, because now it makes a lot of sense why they put so many resources into building the cloud. So DS Core has its own website, and you simply log in and you can access it from any browser, on any device, anything that can access the internet. And the thing about the Primescan 2 is that it scans on the cloud, on DS Core itself. So you can create a patient case and start scanning directly on any browser, on any device. This means that in the clinic, you can literally use any computer to scan with. And for those of you who already have CERECs in the office, DS Core can then be used to send the Primescan 2 scans directly down from the cloud to your CEREC chairside software. And frankly, once you try it for the first time, it's kind of mind-blowing. And I mean that, and because this feels like a real progression in intraoral scanning, not just an upgrade like we've been seeing for the past 3-4 years in the market. So it's not just a smaller size unit or a cheaper model. This truly feels like an innovation and something that frankly can't be compared to anything else on the market right now. Dentsply Sirona has made the first ever cloud scanner that runs directly off the cloud. Scanning is done on the cloud, and this will likely pave the way for the future of intraoral scanning, as I imagine more and more companies will be going on the cloud in the coming years. We're already seeing that, like the iTero Design Suite with design on the cloud. So you might be wondering, does it actually work? Well, I've been testing it in the clinic for some time, and basically yes. Now, there is a lot going on here when you think about it, because when you pick up the Primescan 2 and start scanning, the cloud is computing all this data as you are scanning real time, and then you are seeing a live image from the cloud and the scan process. And I have to say, I was skeptical at first if they could pull this off, but overall it's better than I expected. There's one major elephant in the room, and that is internet speed. And it's something that is going to be a major challenge, I think, because you really need to have good internet to make this work seamlessly. And I guess we're lucky in New Zealand that our internet speeds are quite good on average. So I didn't have too many issues using it. I have to say, it does lag here and there. But again, I was honestly expecting worse considering how this is working. And I have no doubt there will be more improvements in the future to this. I do wonder though how the company is going to manage the many clinics around the world with not so great internet speeds, as I imagine this is going to be quite challenging for the company and also for all the reps installing these. Also, Wi-Fi connectivity throughout the practice is another issue, as I had to install some extra access points to make it work. In saying that, these are interesting times for sure, and something no doubt Dentsply has thought about deeply before launching this to the market. And one interesting workaround that Dentsply is doing is providing every customer that buys a Primescan 2 what's called an edge device, which is essentially a computer which sits next to your server or something, and this talks to the Primescan 2. So when you're scanning, it sends it to the edge device, and then later on the edge device will upload to the cloud. It is a workaround for now for clinics with poor upload speeds, and therefore you can get around it by just uploading later rather than having issues in real time. So that is the cloud scanning aspect, and it's super cool. Once you try it, it's amazing. And although there's no doubt going to be some challenges, I think this kind of paves the way for the future of intraoral scanning. And it does mean that all your scans are on the cloud now automatically and accessible everywhere. So Dentsply is joining other companies that are rushing to the cloud, like Medit, who was one of the first to be on the cloud. 3Shape is going on the cloud with the Unite software. iTero is going on the cloud, and now Dentsply Sirona. So what about the hardware itself? Is there any changes? Well, the scanner feels like an updated Primescan. It still shares, the same DNA, and overall hardware feels the same, especially when you're scanning. There have been improvements, however, and most notably to the scanner head and tip, because as I mentioned prior, anyone with sharp eyes will notice this is actually more streamlined and a bit thinner than the original Primescan. And even, it's not just the scanner tip, because even the head itself, when you take the scanner tip off, looks different to the Primescan 1. Interestingly, the scanner also comes shipped with these single-use plastic tips, but a multi-use metal sleeve is also available on release, just like most Primescan users are used to. The other thing about the Primescan 2 is the weight and size. The Primescan 2 is a bigger unit, and although it shares the same shape as the Primescan 1, it is larger overall and weighs more. The Primescan 1 weighs 457 grams, the Primescan 2 is quite a lot heavier, almost 100 grams more, at 542 grams. Obviously, with wireless scanning technology, scanners become heavier because all the extra hardware, the batteries, etc. And this does mean that the Primescan 2 is easily the heaviest scanner on the market right now, at least with the new releases. And it's an interesting move because most other companies are trimming the weight off their scanners, as we're seeing from Medit, Shining, even Trios 5 compared to Trios 4. And last but not least, the cost. What is the price of the Primescan 2? Well, the Primescan 2, everything you see in the box, the 3 batteries, is $24,995 USD. The company has chosen this price, it seems, because it's in the realm of all the other premium scanners from the top 5 intraoral scanner companies, like Trios 5, Meta i900, etc. And for reference, Trios 5 retails for around $26,000 USD. So this is very similar cost, slightly less than a Trios 5. Interesting move. And of course there are the monthly fees for DS Core, because using cloud and storage etc. is not free. This will vary by region, so I recommend you check with your local Dentsply rep what that might be. And of course the scanner tips, because these are single-use plastic tips. And how they come is in a box of 30, which the company sells for 105 USD, which basically means $3.5 per patient. So that is about everything. What do you think about the new intraoral scanner from Dentsply Sirona? And what do you think about all the companies going onto the cloud? Do you think this is the next market trend in intraoral scanners? Because I certainly do. I will do a full review on the Primescan 2 and the DS Core platform soon. And as always, to keep up to date with everything digital dentistry, go to instituteofdigitaldentistry.com. It is going to be a big year for digital dentistry. Thanks for watching.